Hi, welcome to another episode of the World Recreational Fisheries Conference interview series recorded live from WRFC 2026. I'm joined now by Dr. Vivian Nguyen, Associate Professor at Carleton University in the Institute for Environmental and Interdisciplinary Sciences and the Department of Biology. Vivian, that's a mouthful.
Yes, you did really well.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Your work sits at the intersection of conservation sciences and social sciences. Please tell us what that means, who you are, why you're here. Give us a little bit of an overview.
Okay. Well, so when we say intersection is that my background, I started in biology, ecology, and then during my master's, I did a thesis that was half social science, half biology, kind of combining it together because when we heard this morning with Judy, she said managing fisheries management is not managing fish, but the people.
Yes.
So I slowly was realizing this. And so I've moved a lot of my research into the social sciences. But the neat thing is that being trained in biology and fisheries, you're kind of you can speak the language. And then moving into the social sciences, you're kind of speaking the language of the social scientists. So I find myself kind of in this nice niche area where you're like, okay, I can bridge these two worlds, and it's taken me to a lot of cool places and on a lot of cool projects, not just recreational fishing, but I've been doing eider ducks in the Arctic,
Wow.
working with Inuit communities, and then also working on forest pests in forestry.
Okay.
So it's cool.
What's the most fascinating part of your job?
I think the people that I get to talk to, so we do a lot of surveys, interview, community-based research, and the stories, the relationship that people hold with nature is really, really fascinating and rewarding to hear.
When you are not a scientist or being really smart about all things related, what are you doing? I met you at the start of the conference in the gym.
Yes, I quickly regretted that I came and said hi and you roped me into the podcast. But no, I'm kidding. I'm a mom.
Lovely.
I have a stepson who's 15 and two little ones who are 3 and 5.
Wow.
Yes, I called them.
It's a handful.
Yeah. I called them at the beginning of the conference and my daughter's like, "What are you buying me?" So that's what I'm working with.
Yeah, that's the actual full-time job.
Yes.
Definitely. Your presentation at World Recreational Fisheries Conference. Well, let me actually start by asking what brought you to this year's conference?
Yeah, this is actually my first time at the World Rec Fisheries Conference. I mean, I've always wanted to go, but like I said, I had mat leaves and COVID and all that. I really wanted to share what we've been doing on a more global stage, because a lot of our work and perspective came from, your own experience, what you're facing, North American fisheries and things like that. And I was just really excited and curious about how it would land in an international space. And if people would relate, maybe it would have bombed.
Well, then let's talk about what have you been doing? What did you present at this year's conference?
Yeah, so what I presented was, I guess in a nutshell, I wanted to bring forward under-recognized values and benefits of recreational fishing that's been invisible, at least in North America. And I've heard from many other delegates here that it happens in their countries as well. We manage recreational fisheries often for sport, for game fish, and those who have the loudest voices. And so our project, which is fishingbeyondfun.org, that's our website, it's more about bringing forward these underrepresented, underserved fishers as well, and the values that they gain. So food is a big one. It's interesting because, if you're thinking about recreational fishing and the definition of it, it doesn't include, fishing for food or to meet your diet, your dietary needs. But it's not just about that. It's about the culture, the social dimension, community, and how fishing could also increase resilience, social resilience, but it also helps spread knowledge. People are sharing knowledge. So it's a lot of these invisible values that we haven't really brought to the forefront that I hope people can sort of take this framework and look at fisheries a little bit differently.
Definitely. You use in your presentation provisioning fisheries.
Yes.
What does that term mean?
Yeah. So provisioning, we came up with that term because the term provision, you are accessing a resource for different provisions, which is whether it's for your mental health or food needs, or it's about identity and your livelihood, as I mentioned earlier. And so that's why we use a term provisioning rather than subsistence, because a lot of when you think about subsistence, it's just food, but it's beyond that as well.
You've also spoken about the fuzzy boundaries,
Yes.
between commercial, subsistence, and recreational fisheries. Obviously, you've touched on that already. But why do these categories sometimes fail to reflect reality?
That's a tough one. I think it's just because the angling or the recreational fishing population are just so diverse. And then we were out late last night till 1 a.m. talking about this with some of the delegates. And one of the challenges is like, okay, we recognize that, fishers are really diverse. There are so many different benefits that we can get from fishing, but management need boxes to be able to manage. And so there are pros and cons about defining things. And I think Warren spoke right after where he mentioned that there was a change in definition somehow, but it kind of like changed the entire dynamic and it didn't work. So I think the fuzzy boundary is where some fishers just don't fit in those boxes, and that's where they kind of fall through the cracks, and we need to figure out how we can support those fishers.
What can researchers and managers and angling organizations do to fill those cracks?
Yes, that's a great question and something we're trying to investigate a bit more. But my second talk, we actually did a summit with 35 fisheries practitioners and researchers to kind of discuss that very question. If we don't formalize this other fishery, because sometimes labeling can really continue marginalizing people, then what could we do? What are some low-hanging fruits and opportunities? And I think what I heard from that summit is that we need to look at things that exist and just kind of scale up or enhance it or support it. So, for example, community-based outreach programs or community-based programs like ambassadors, having ambassadors of underrepresented or underserved fisher groups to be joining these advisory board and compensating them. But other programs like free shuttles to clean sites, because a lot of the urban fisheries are contaminated. There's also just youth programs or loaner programs. And one cool thing that I saw when I was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, is that there's a hunger task program where they leave a freezer at the fish cleaning stations. So if anglers they caught fish but didn't want it, they could leave it there to help support those who would like to have fish. So there's all these programs that local community-based, organizations are doing. We just have to learn about them and maybe support those a bit more. So that's what that's what I'm hearing, but I don't know what the answer is yet.
What are you taking away from this year's conference?
What am I taking away? I do think that a lot of presentations that I've heard, and maybe it's biased because I'm going to these presentations, but that data poor fisheries are difficult, but it's also because it also serves a lot of underserved fishers as well. I also find that we're struggling to deal with such diverse fishing population, but it's really great to have seen so many different approaches. Different people are exploring with new ways, like the apps and just new techniques to try and learn about fishers. So I'm taking away a lot of really new, cool techniques, analysis, study designs that I'm hoping to bring back to our project.
And what gives you hope that fisheries management can become more inclusive in the future?
I think the people who are in it, we often but I think fisheries management can sometimes be a black box, but when we were able to gather people together or even have like one-on-one discussions, the people who are in these roles really do want to do a good job and want to be inclusive, but they lack capacity. They are always stretched. So they need our help as like the research community or just the broader, NGOs and things like that to help give them a starting point or a pathway or some suggestions, because they do want to. So that gives me a lot of hope.
Mm-hmm. And lastly, anyone listening to this or delegates having spoken to you this week, what do you hope that they take away and the small thing that they can do to make their communities more inclusive and make the entire, I hate to say industry, because it's not an industry, it's more than an industry, but to make fisheries more inclusive?
That's a great question. I mean, I think just the provisioning fisheries framework is maybe a good start, because we've really tried to highlight these invisible values that that if we kind of focus on, we might be able to learn more about the different fishers that are that we want to serve. In terms of more inclusivity in the industry, I think just continuing what they're doing. I think everybody at this conference has been really receptive in trying to be more inclusive and trying to figure out what equitable fisheries look like, giving access to everyone. So I think just persevering and keeping that in mind is going to be, the way forward.
Vivian, thank you so much.
Thank
really
you.
Appreciate your time. Please run and catch your flight and drive safely. And really, it's been lovely having you at this year's conference.
Thank
and
you.
We hope to see you soon.